Notice is hereby given of the organization meeting of the Board of Education of the Town of Westfield in the County of Union, New Jersey, at 7:30 p.m. on the evening of January 7th, 2014, in the boardroom of the Administration Building, 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey. The purpose of the meeting is to transact regular business of the board and to transact any other business to come properly before the board. This is to advise the general public and to instruct that it be recorded in the minutes that in compliance with Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, entitled the Open Public Meetings Act, the Westfield School Board on Friday, January 3rd, 2014, caused to be posted at the office of the Board of Education, located at 302 Elm Street, Westfield, New Jersey, and delivered to the Westfield Leader, the Star Ledger, the Westfield Library, Town Clerk of Westfield, Alternative Press, and Patch.com, a meeting notice setting forth the time, date, and location of this meeting. Please rise for this flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At the annual election held on November 5th, 2013, Brendan Galligan, Ginny Lights, and Mitch Slater were all elected for 3-year terms. Congratulations to all three of you.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to take a roll call of the board. Rich Matesic.
Here.
Lucy Biegler.
Here.
Ann Carey.
Here.
Mark Friedman. Brendan Galligan.
Here.
Roseanne Kerstead. Ginny Lights.
Here.
Gretchen Olig.
Here.
Mitch Slater.
Here.
Okay, next on the agenda, nomination, the election for office of president of the board. Is there any nominations?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Rich Matesic for another wonderful term as president. I think you've done an excellent job, and look forward to having you sit in the chair again.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Any comments or questions? Rich Matesic.
Yes.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Ann Carey.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
Congratulations, Mr. Matesic.
Thank you, River. I'll then call for nominations for the office of vice president.
I would like to nominate Roseanne Kerstead, I guess in absentia, to resume her position as vice president.
I second.
You guys are a great team.
Any comments or questions? Dan?
Rich Matesic.
Yes.
Lucy Biegler.
Yes.
Ann Carey.
Yes.
Brendan Galligan.
Yes.
Ginny Lights.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig.
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
All right. With that, I'd like to go into an acknowledgement of the Code of Ethics, and the Code of Ethics is one of the requirements that as board members we adhere to and are legally responsible to adhere to. What I'd like to do, rather than just approve them, is actually just go around the table and read them, if that's all right with everyone. I'll start, and just so the public knows, the Code of Ethics, which we all literally sign, starts by reading, "We acknowledge and agree that a school board member shall abide by the following School Board Association Code of Ethics for school board members." Number 1, I will uphold and enforce all laws, rules, and regulations of the State Board of Education and court orders pertaining to schools. Desired changes shall be brought about only through the legal and ethical procedures.
2, I will make decisions in terms of the educational welfare of children and will seek to develop and maintain public schools that meet the individual needs of all children, regardless of their ability, race, creed, sex, or social standing.
3, I will confine my board action to policymaking, planning, and appraisal, and I will help to frame policies and plans only after the board has consulted those who will be affected by them.
4,
I will carry out my responsibility to not administer the schools, but together with my fellow board members to see that they are well run.
5, I will recognize that authority rests with the Board of Education and will make no personal promises nor take any private action that may compromise the board.
6, I will refuse to surrender my independent judgment to special interest or partisan political groups or to use the schools for personal gain or for the gain of friends.
7, I will hold confidential all matters pertaining to the schools which, if disclosed, would needlessly injure individuals or the school. In all other matters, I will provide accurate information and, in concert with my fellow board members, interpret to the staff the aspirations of the community for its school.
Number 8, I will vote to appoint the best qualified personnel available after consideration of the recommendation of the Chief Administrative Officer.
Number 9, I will support and protect school personnel in proper performance of their duties.
And number 10, I will refer all complaints to the Chief Administrative Officer and will act on the complaints at public meetings only after failure of an administrative solution.
We don't vote on, we'll vote at the end on the...
Well, you can vote on 3 to 8 if you want, all the resolutions. You have to move in second, you didn't do that though yet.
Right, so I just want to recognize them first. So then I would ask the board to consider resolutions 3 through 8, or 3 through 8?
3 to 8.
3 through 8.
Second?
Thank you. Any comments or questions? All right,
Rich
Amy?
Matesic,
Yes.
Lucy Beegler,
Yes.
Ann Carey,
Yes.
Brendan Galligan,
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted, I'm sorry, Ginny Lights,
Yes.
Gretchen Olig,
Yes.
Mitch Slater.
Yes.
All right, with that, I would recognize the public for agenda items only. Seeing no one come to the podium, we will move to the superintendent's report.
I'm just wondering, we also, I think, have announcements, even though
Yeah.
maybe we should do that first.
All right, let's, before we go to the superintendent's report and announcements, Brendan, anything?
Yeah, I have one. Parents of students in 3rd through 12th grades in the Westfield Public Schools are invited to attend the Westfield High School PTSO meeting on Wednesday, January 22nd, to hear author and study skills expert Richard P. Gallagher share his study skills to last a lifetime. Secondary school students are also welcome. The meeting will take place from 7:30 to 9 p.m. in Cafeteria B of Westfield High School. There is no admission charge.
This is for kindergarten and first grade registration. The Westfield Public School District has begun registration for children who will become eligible for kindergarten in the 2014-2015 school year. The district also is interested in locating children who have not attended the Westfield Public Schools for kindergarten but will enter first grade in the fall. Daytime and evening appointments are being scheduled. Since all previously announced kindergarten registration appointments have been filled, the following additional registration dates have been scheduled. Tuesday, January 28th, from 9 a.m. to 11:30 a.m., and Wednesday, January 29th, from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Parents of incoming kindergarten children are asked to call Lincoln School at 789-4455 to schedule an appointment and to check the school or district website for downloading forms required at registration.
Thank you.
Am I supposed to sit here?
Yes.
Yes. That would have been fun.
Thank you
Yes.
for your support. Sorry, I'm late. We have a frozen pipe.
Okay.
Lucy, any announcements?
Yes, this is flu season. Notice with the onset of the flu season, the health offices of the Westfield Public Schools remind families to practice frequent hand washing, consider getting the flu vaccine, and try to stay away from others if you are ill. Tips on preventing the flu and more information from the Center for Disease Control can be found on our district website under Important Messages and also under the Parents link.
All right, this is from the high school. I love talking about this. Westfield High School student-run weekly newspaper, High's Eye, has been awarded a gold medal by the Columbia Scholastic Press Association in the print, and web hybrid category for the 2012-13 school year. For many years, High-Eye has been an award recipient for its printed newspaper, and since its venture into both print and web in 2011, High-Eye has captured the gold medal from the Columbia Scholastic Press Association for 2 consecutive years. The judges wrote the following in their decision. The High-Eye demonstrates exactly what a school publication should do. It informs, entertains, and provides a forum for student opinion. When a reader picks up the print edition, the quality of the writing impresses. When the reader goes to the digital edition, he finds a website with energy and talent. Kudos to the student designers. It captures the high school's spirit and culture and personality. I thought I had one here.
Right there.
Actually, I have, okay, well, Iris, which is part of the High-Eye. So on behalf of the Board of Education and the entire Westfield community, congratulations to the 2012-13 staff of High-Eye and advisors Rosemary DiBattista and Nicole Shimoni on this outstanding recognition. Congratulations.
You're here. I have an announcement about school closing. All Westfield Public Schools will be closed on Monday, January 20th, in observance of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day. All members of the Westfield community are invited to the 27th Annual Interfaith Commemorative Service at 1 p.m. at Temple Emmanuel, where Rabbi Douglas Segal will be the keynote speaker. The Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Association of Westfield also welcomes the public to meet at the monument of Dr. King on the South Avenue Circle at 12:15 to proceed to the temple. During the services, students who are this year's winners of the essay, poetry, and art contests will be announced. I highly recommend that if you have the opportunity to take the time on Monday, January 20th in the afternoon to attend this commemorative service, you will be entertained, impressed, and moved significantly. It's a wonderful thing to do.
I would like to announce that I have nominated Westfield's Special Education Parents Committee for the 2014 Unity Achievement Award. This award is presented every May by the Union County Human Relations Commission. The award recognizes programs, services, activities, and efforts being put forth by local role models that promote cultural diversity, strong community relations, and human rights. The award recipients enhance the human spirit and quality of life by dedicating themselves to make things better for people, and between people. I think that anyone who's familiar with the Special Education Parents Committee knows that it is a group of dedicated, energized, and good-hearted volunteers. For approximately 20 years, this hard-working committee has brought awareness and advocacy of special needs students to the forefront and supported thousands of parents in so many ways. The committee's monthly meetings and annual expo attract parents and teachers within and beyond Westfield. They successfully manage time and again to schedule experts in education and child behavior as guest speakers on a pro bono basis. This committee is an asset to the district as we work hand in hand to provide support to our families. The committee remains vigilant and well-informed, meeting with statewide agencies and our own Board of Education and Special Services offices. The 23 volunteers on the PTC Special Education Parents Committee certainly embody the qualities of the Union County Human Relations Commission that they hold high, and that is to enhance the human spirit and quality of life by dedicating themselves to make things better for people and between people. So it's too early to know if they are going to be recognized by the county commission. However, I think it's important that they do be recognized for all of their efforts this year and every other year for the past 2 decades.
The next Board of Education meeting will be held on Tuesday, January 20th at 7:30 p.m. at 302 Elm Street. And with that, we can go to the superintendent's report.
Rich, what was the date of the next meeting?
Yeah.
Tuesday, the 21st.
You're only off by a day. It's a good start.
So before starting on this presentation, I just wanted to take a moment to thank not only the 3 board members who were sworn in for a new term tonight, but all of the board members for continuing to volunteer. It is a big commitment of time and thought on your parts, and I appreciate it, as do the students in the district. So thank you all for doing that. So since this is the organization meeting with the board, it's a great time to reflect on the strategic plan and also the goals that we have in place for this year. And this is an update on the work that's been accomplished since the beginning of the school year. First, let's just start with a reminder of our strategic plan. We're still thankful to the community members who worked to put together the strategic plan for 2010 to 2015. And there are four main categories to the strategic plan. One focuses on student achievement, and it commits actually to us providing curriculum, instruction, and programs to prepare our students with 21st century skills to succeed in a global society. We've done much over the past few years to work towards that. Second one, under student personal development, we will foster an environment of mutual respect and integrity and educate students to become responsible and caring adults. Certainly an area we have committed to and continue to on a daily basis. Finance and facilities. This is one where the board certainly takes a lead in this, I would say. We will maximize the efficient use of district resources and funding opportunities. And the fourth one, communication and community engagement, something to always strive to improve. We will improve communication and community engagement between the school district and all stakeholders. One of the goals we speak of tonight certainly focuses on this. So for this school year, 2013-2014, I proposed, the board reviewed, and then approved 3 district goals. The first one is the implementation of a new teacher evaluation model, specifically the Marshall teacher evaluation model. The second is the development and use of benchmark assessments to measure growth of student performance. And the third is to implement new digital tools and media to improve communication between the school district and all stakeholders. So let me start with goal 1. Having all teachers become familiar with the new evaluation system and all administrators understanding a new structure for evaluations and observations is a rather daunting task. We actually did some of it last year, but just focusing on what we've done since July. Over the summer, we had weekly meetings. I held weekly meetings with principals and supervisors, going over various aspects and preparing them for the work that laid ahead. And school staff meetings with all the teachers were held in September, October, and November. We had also promised to develop a district manual and a website detailing the requirements and providing supporting resources. The website was operational beginning in July of 2013, and we continue to add additional material for staff on the evaluation system as we get suggestions and as we find worthwhile resources. The manual, which I have a copy here, the manual was completed and distributed to all teaching staff and all administrative staff in September. So at the very beginning of the year, they were aware of what the expectations were and what timelines and procedures were, and they can reference it. It was also sent to them, pertinent information from there was also sent to them digitally so that they can access it easily at any time. We continue the implementation of a new system. You need a lot of ongoing training. It's not a simple change, and we want to make sure we really are going ahead towards a very new way of looking at observations and evaluation. So we continue to attend a number of training sessions. Just about all of our administrators and members of the district evaluation team were lucky enough to meet directly with Kim Marshall, the man who developed this system of teacher evaluation, in October. We had already been using the system, so it gave us opportunities to ask specific questions based on our own experiences. And he's very knowledgeable, and he's quite an engaging presenter, so it was a very worthwhile day. We also have attended numerous training sessions, including sessions at New Jersey Association of School Administrators, Principals and Supervisors, Morris Union Jointure Commission, and New Jersey Personnel Administrators Association. We also meet regularly with other districts using our system to see what they're experiencing and to learn from them as well and to collaborate with them. One really important aspect of any evaluation system, when you have more than one administrator in a district, you have to make sure that all the administrators have the same understanding of the system, otherwise you're going to end up with different types of observations and evaluations, different judgments. So we started on this early in the summer. Beginning in the summer, regularly at meetings, we would not only discuss the rubrics that are used and talk about judgments as to what we would expect to see as evidence of that, but we also started viewing videos. videos of actual classroom lessons that you can find easily on the internet, and showing them, and then having each administrator taking out the rubrics, determining how would they rate those individual that they just saw in the video, and then had debates going back and forth when people had different points of view as to what strengths were and what weaknesses were. Additionally, we continue that during the school year, and additionally, every one of our administrators has completed at least one observation, in most cases more than one, with another administrator, where they have gone into a classroom in Westfield to do a formal observation. And then the two administrators went back individually, did their own evaluation of what they saw, then they met again to see whether they were on the same page or not. So to make sure that we are all using this in the same way. And also to have worthwhile conversations about what is important in instruction. As part of this, we certainly said that we'd be reviewing the observation summaries to make sure they're being completed. I have to tell you, I was so happy on December 15th, and this is the truth, because I checked on our software for evaluations, and it's a brand new system. Every single one of our non-tenured teachers had at least 3 mini observations completed by an administrator by December 15th. Every single one. We did reports to check it, and every single tenured teacher had a minimum of one observation, one written observation. So everyone is taking this very seriously and working hard to make sure that instruction is being observed and evaluated properly. It's very easy with our software program for me to review the different observations. I did those before I had conferences with principals and brought up topics that I saw, and we talked about the quality of the observations in my conferences with the principals. All right, we also have a district evaluation committee. Actually, Roseanne Kerstead is the board member who sits on that committee, and that committee has been working to provide some oversight, to ask for feedback from teachers, from administrators, what is working, what needs more clarification, what needs more support, what other documents are required, etc. We've met every month since the beginning of the school year and have made some clarifications based on the questions that are brought. We'll continue to do that. We're very fortunate the software system we use to organize all of this is called T-Eval, and it's a small firm that produces T-Eval. So it's very easy for us to call them up. We do it on a regular basis to ask them to make sure this works for Westfield. We want it to work for our particular system, not try to fit into somebody else's software system. They've been very good to work with. And we've had some suggestions from teachers as to what would be easier from their perspective as well as from administrators. Additionally, Kim Marshall compiles a Marshall memo every week, and we have arranged it so that our administrators, myself, and the board receives this memo weekly. It has a lot of information on research and conversations regarding teacher evaluation from across not only the country, actually from other countries as well. Moving forward, we have a little more work to do. We'll be conducting surveys to determine the consistency of the implementation of effectiveness. That's scheduled for April. And then based on these new evaluations and observations, we'll be making the recommendations for our staffing for the following year. But we are certainly off to a good start on this. The second goal has to do with benchmarks for student growth. Just in preparation for this, we provided a lot of resource information so that all of our staff could understand better how to develop long-term student goals and how also to collect student growth evidence that was valid and reliable. We provided an in-service for all of our teaching staff in the district. That took place before the school year began. We have had follow-up department and school level and grade level meetings since the beginning of the year. All teachers have developed student growth objectives, and those student growth objectives have received approval from principals and supervisors after review by those administrators. One of our goals within this goal was how do you make sure that the entire district, a fairly large district with 10 schools, how do you make sure that the same message gets out? So the reason why you're seeing Barbara Ball's face on the screen is we came up with a video. We developed our own video that was meant just for Westfield staff. Barbara was one of the speakers explaining parts of SGOs and evaluation. I spoke on it as well as some of the administrators and teachers who are on the district evaluation committee. That video was shown across the district on our in-service day before the beginning of school, so that everyone started from the exact same place as to what expectations were, and so that the message was clear from the very beginning. All of the administrators, principals, and supervisors had small groups of teachers around the district. They also had a PowerPoint after the video that all used so that, again, the same information would be communicated to our over 600 staff members. All right. So in the beginning of the year, teachers were very busy. If you've been talking to teachers, they might have told you that. They were analyzing the student data, determining what was a good area to focus on, and they then wrote student growth objectives. On the screen is an example of one of the SGOs, but SGOs were done for every level, for elementary, for kindergarten, for high school, for child study team members. One thing you'll notice on here, this particular goal talks about 80% of students reaching a goal. If that is the goal, then for a teacher to receive a 3, they have to receive that 80% mark. Okay. For them to reach a 4, which is rather extraordinary to be able to reach a score of 4, they have to get above that goal. They would have to get 90% or more. Similarly, if they only receive 70%, that teacher would receive an SGO score of 2. And if they if less than 70% of the students reach the goal that was outlined, then that would be a 1. And each teacher is given a score of 1, 2, 3, or 4. It's actually a new requirement by the Department of Education. All right. So the teachers have already given the their pre-assessment. Certainly that happened in the beginning of the year. They've met with their administrators, their mid-year checks to make sure people are on track or if there are questions. And then at the end of the year, the teachers will meet with the administrators and a determination will be as to what student growth objective score each teacher will receive. The third goal has to do with new digital and media communication tools. So we started off saying we needed to select a new website provider with off-site hosting and social media capabilities, and it was also very important to assign one project manager to coordinate all the efforts. Those first few steps were certainly done in consultation with the board's technology committee. Some of the next steps, starting in July, were to determine the design and content and review our ideas for design and content with various stakeholders. So that was done with the Board of Ed Technology Committee. There were surveys of staff members for what they thought. There were building level meetings. There's also a PTC presentation to get perspectives of parents. One of the things we did commit to was investigating expanded use of social media. The new web presence that we are moving towards definitely has that. But in the meantime, while we're working towards that, our district Twitter account is now accessible through the district website. And also, we established a mobile view of the website, which has become very, very popular with both parents and staff. It's only been in existence, I believe, 2 months. I think that's right, approximately that. And its use has grown quite a bit because all of us depend on our phones so much. So it's quite a bit easier. And as we transfer to the new web presence, that will be, the web view will be for the new web presence. Project manager, I mentioned already, that happens to be Janine Gotko. Janine Gotko is one of our master technology teachers. She has taken the lead on it. The master technology teachers and instructional technology support teachers receive training from the Edline staff over the summer. Edline is the name of the web presence. And an implementation team is formed with those people as well as others to make sure we have insight from stakeholders. We provided training over the summer to both all new teachers, but also to any staff members interested in attending and getting a head start. We definitely have some early adapters among our teachers, and a number of them participated in the training so they could start working on their new website. And then a schedule for staff training throughout the year was accomplished. Some of that is after school. There are voluntary sessions, and we've had a few hundred teachers who have already participated in voluntary after-school sessions. Additionally, our master technology teachers spend time in the schools during the day, and teachers on their lunch hours or during their preparation periods can work with our master technology teachers one-on-one or in groups to learn the new website. We also, our two master technology teachers have developed courses for how to establish the new web pages, and those are available on web pages for all of our teachers. So that training has begun. We certainly have many hundreds of teachers who have already been trained, but it's still continuing. Not every teacher has been trained yet, but we're still working to be able to, a number of teachers have established their new pages, and they are actually functioning now. And when parents go onto the website, they are seeing the pages on the new web presence. And others will be migrating by the spring. Now, those happen to be the 3 district goals. There are also 2 board goals for this year, which are also important. I can speak to them briefly if you would like me to do that. Sure. Okay. So there are 2 goals that the Board of Ed established also. I just went over the district goals, but these are ones specifically for the Board of Education. First one talks about implementing mechanisms to enable more group discussion and brainstorming and to increase and equalize board members' shared knowledge. If you remember, that's the reason why we established the workshops. Just about every month, workshops are held, which is something new for this board. And it was to address the 2 issues mentioned there. Second one talks about embedding assessment into significant board actions to follow up on actions that are taken, and also to create standardized questions and follow-up procedures for future actions. So already, for example, we established 2 new special education classes, brand new this year, and that was part of a presentation given by Dr. Weissman not too long ago. And upcoming, we have other follow-up sessions that are scheduled on the board calendar, including, for example, I think it's at the next meeting on the 21st. I believe that's when Audrey Zavitz is coming to talk about the kindergarten wrap program, because this is the first year of that implementation. So we are trying to follow up in programs that are new, making sure you get reports on how they are proceeding. So in my view, all the work of the strategic plan, the work of the district goals for this year, the work of the board goals for this year, they really all just emanate from and point back to the mission statement of the Westfield Public Schools. I read this frequently. I pay attention each time I read it because I just think it's so important. It's so important. We have a large district, and I have to have all the teachers and all the administrators working on the same goal with the same vision, and certainly the board has to share that as well. So I will read it again, that the mission of the Westfield Public Schools is the Westfield Public School District, in cooperation with family and community, prepares all students to reach their highest potential and to become productive, well-balanced, and responsible citizens in a global society through educational programs that respect individual differences and diversity.
Great. Any comments, questions, Rich?
Yeah, just a quick question. Great presentation. So it's hard to believe it, because I remember, when we sat down in 2010 and did this plan, and here we are, 2014. When do you anticipate us starting to think about the next 5 years? I know it's
Well, let's just say
crazy,
I
but
wouldn't
just sort
think
of-
it would be before next spring, is what I would say.
Okay.
All other things being equal, and calendars and whatever other changes life brings, I would think maybe next spring would be a good time to do it.
Okay.
And then we'd be prepared for the beginning of the school year in 15.
Okay, makes sense.
I just have a quick question. The student growth objectives, are there student growth objectives written for each student?
No.
So it's for the class?
It is most often for the entire class, but it is sometimes for a specific group in a class.
Okay.
If we know there is a group that we need specific, that need specific attention, it could be on a small group of students, or it could be more likely a full class.
That was actually my question, was I was trying to get a sense of how the SGOs were created, and whether it was like on a grade level by school, or because I know the data was compiled by school and then filtered down to class, to grade level. And so, but you're saying every individual teacher creates SGOs
So
for their
example,
particular classroom? And do they do that with the other grade level teachers, or?
Yes, as a matter of fact, let me give you an example, and it is different at different levels, actually. But so, for example, elementary. Elementary, the way it was arranged was each elementary principal took one grade, district-wide. So one principal was in charge of the in-service training at the beginning of the year for all the first grade teachers in Westfield. And beforehand, all the principals had met with all the supervisors along with myself and Paul and Barbara to determine, okay, what do we think is a good area of focus, especially during this first year, for us to do. Now, at the elementary level, we all know we're still in the midst of the literacy initiative. So it really makes sense to have a focus on student growth and literacy since we're in the middle of an initiative. So, in general, all the elementary teachers use a similar framework to assess the students, but the percentage that would be increasing or how much the class would increase was based on the actual data from the class. Now, it's a little bit different when you get to the intermediate. They absolutely worked in departments at the intermediate and the high school. And so at the intermediate level, if you have 2 6th grade social studies teachers, it is very likely that their goals are aligned. Okay. Again, may be different based on the initial pre-assessments in the class. When you get to the high school, there's a little more differentiation because there are specific classes that are given in each discipline.
Got it, thanks. And then just one other question, just out of curiosity, how many other districts are doing the Marshall Plan? You mentioned that regular meetings with other districts. I'm just curious how many there are.
There are 38 in central and northern New Jersey.
That's a lot.
In case that wasn't heard, there are 38 in central and northern New Jersey.
That's great.
Ginny, sorry.
Thank you, Peg. There's been a lot of activity going on, thank you. I have questions on 2 of the goals. The first one on the Marshall evaluation. Is there anyone who hasn't yet been trained?
I don't think so. I can't imagine.
Okay.
I mean, most have had numerous trainings.
Roseanne, has it
Had-
come?
Makes me think of something. What about new teachers who come in who
Well, that's my
are
follow-up question.
maternity leaves and things, replacements, and
Yeah.
or
My second question
coming
is, what
back
is our
in?
plan
How do we-
for training those who have already been trained over time, to continue training, and then what is our plan for new staff, and is there an expectation when somebody comes in as a replacement and/or when someone comes in as a new hire, even they could come in a new hire in the middle of the year,
Oh, certainly.
how
Yes.
are we identifying, monitoring, managing, and then making sure that we're keeping them on our radar for the training and the integrating them?
Right.
That's
So
a job
if-
in itself.
for those who come in mid-year, I mean, they do have the resource of having a manual. They also have the online resource. And then a lot of it, honestly, would be mainly with their supervisor, whether it's a supervisor, principal, assistant principal, but it can also be through the Teachers Association, because every building has a representative, and they have been trained in the use of the evaluation system
And I would
as
guess
well.
that would be an important part of their buddy mentoring activity.
Right.
I don't want to ask if we do have, but presumably we will have some kind of tracking mechanism that understands who has been trained, how often they've been trained. I don't know if
So truthfully, and I'm going to look to Mrs. Bowl to disagree with me if she
do
thinks that I'm
know all
wrong.
those things?
My point of view is, so the Marshall Plan utilizes rubrics for all the aspects of a teacher's work. And if you have been well trained to be a teacher, the rubrics work. You didn't need to have gone to a special school. You needed to go to a good education school, and you needed to have a good experience as a student teacher, and then the rubrics will work. because it's definitely based on good research. So teachers don't need a lot of training. They need to be introduced to it. They don't need a lot of training. Administrators is a little different, because administrators, you have to make sure that everybody's starting off from a similar premise. So that requires more. As we haven't gotten a new administrator recently, our last person was hired in the summer and was part of training. But as we have new administrators, that will be important to make sure we continue that training. But the teacher, even the teachers agreed, they did not need a lot of training. They needed to be introduced to it, they need resources, but they didn't need a lot of instruction in it.
And they need support, I guess, among each other at their peer grade levels and their content, shared content levels, to understand how they're identifying their SGOs, their student growth objectives,
Yes.
what's reasonable as an expectation, and then how they're going about
Right.
demonstrating the ability to get there.
Yes, the SGOs really required a lot of support and a lot of work, absolutely, yes.
So your lead-in on the supervisor administrator area was key. My next question was, how are we doing with those evaluations? Supervisors have to evaluate down to the teachers. And then somehow there's an across process with you to administrators, principals to supervisors, I don't know, or central staff to supervisors. How is that going?
It's going well. It's a similar process. Obviously, as you can imagine, the rubrics are different, and the process is a little bit different, not that much, but a bit different. But it's going well also. Yeah.
So now the next question has to do with the technology, digital media technology. So my question there was really, maybe it's a conversation
Right.
for the technology committee also, and that is, for a while, the board has had an unknown expectation for website data, levels of data, content expectations, and without a rubric for measuring what our expectations are at different levels. Is there some point at which we should involve ourselves to get an overview of how these web pages are being built and to what expectation? And I'm thinking about content, I'm thinking about timeliness, refresh, updates, at each level, at the district administrator, school, teacher level.
No, I would agree, and I think these are what will be part of all of the ongoing conversations we'll have. We'll involve Janine more at these meetings.
Yeah, so maybe it's a matter of getting the technology committee asking for some presentations of what the expectation for a good website is at different levels.
Yes.
Right.
As opposed to the board expressing what we think is a good website.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
Paul,
know what a good
well,
website is.
Paul, he's not here tonight, but Paul can really has some really good examples of that, and I know he's thought a lot about that. So.
Right.
Right. And I do think that would be a good,
Right.
a good meeting or two for the technology
Yeah.
committee to have, is right. And I'm sure you can provide some suggestions and questions, which always help, because it's a huge undertaking.
Yeah.
There's no doubt.
And since we're using a new platform and rolling out a lot of new functionality, I'm sure we would like to do a good job in expressing what we would hope to see as a board, and maybe it is based on levels of expectation. So that could become part of an assessment mechanism.
Good point.
So I hope we can work that into our committee expectations.
I hope so too.
And thank you very much. It's a good, comprehensive presentation.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. Anything else, Superintendent?
No.
All right. With that, I would ask the board to approve the minutes of the board meeting held on December 10, 2013, and the minutes of the private session also held on December 10, 2013. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any comments or questions about the minutes? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right. I would then ask the board to consider personnel motions 1 through 17 with the note that item 2 was superseded by the addendum at the table. I have a second.
Second.
Thank you. Comments or questions?
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Olig?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
All right, with that, I would move to facilities, and just note that we have a facilities meeting a week from Friday on the 17th. That will be, you'll get an agenda shortly, but we'll be going through the grants, update on roofing projects, update on securities, so things of that nature, primarily driven by the grant results. So how are we on, where would you say we are on receiving replies back or information back from the state?
I think we've got all the grants back. There might be a few stragglers, because there were a couple of applications that we submitted, and we put a couple of projects together that we thought would all be the same priority. The state asked for additional information on those, so we still may be getting those back, but we've gotten, I would say, about 16 of them approved at this point.
Okay.
So.
Good. I'd also note, over the past few weeks, we've had our share of bad weather, and I think the Dana, your team, and Mike Morris and the team really have done a great job at keeping the schools not only open when we were open, but cleared on weekends and through the holidays when others were using the schools. I thank them for that.
Thanks.
Otherwise, I didn't have a report. Did you have anything specific to facilities?
No, not on facilities.
Okay. Long-range planning, Ginny?
I don't have a report.
All right. Policies, Gretchen?
Yes, I'd like to ask the board to consider policy item number 1. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Roseanne will second. This is the second reading of the 2014-15 school calendar. I know we had some discussion before because we changed the week of spring break. When the policy committee last met, they talked about both options again, because we had gotten feedback from the community in favor of both weeks, to be completely honest, and the policy committee is not recommending any change, so this is the second reading of the calendar that has spring break from April 3rd to the 10th. Any questions or discussion? Okay, Dan.
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Olig?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
I would ask the board to consider policy item number 2 to approve for second reading policies 3337, 4337, and 5337. Can I have a second?
Second.
Mitch, these are the policies that we previously reviewed on the use of service animals in our school facilities. Any further conversation about those?
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Olig?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
I was gonna say woof, but I won't. I'll just say yes.
And finally, I would ask the board to consider item number 3 to affirm the superintendent's decision on HIB incident 14 HS02 for the reasons set forth therein. Can I have a second?
Second.
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kursted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Olig?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
That's all I have. Nothing
All
further.
right.
Thank you.
That brings us to curriculum, instruction, and programs. Roseanne?
I'd like to ask the board to consider items number 1 and number 2, and that is to approve for first reading the following curricula: World Language, Latin 3, Latin 3 Honors, Latin 4, and Latin 4 AP. And in item number 2, it's to approve for second reading Social Studies, Psychology through Film and Literature, and personal and financial literacy. And then in world language, Italian 3, Italian 3 honors, Italian 4 honors, and Spanish 3, 4, and 5. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Anne. I'd like to talk just a little bit about item number 1, which is the first reading of the Latin courses. As you know, we've been seeing a lot of world language curricula as of late, and that is because those curricula are up through within the 5-year cycle. And hopefully you've also noticed, and I think I've made note of at these meetings, that all of the world language curricula are set up in the same way, that are in line with the world language standards. So it has to do with different ways of understanding and using language. And we have a really strong Latin program here in Westfield, and one that I think we are very proud of and our students really thrive in. We actually had to hire a 2/5 teacher to accommodate the increase in enrollment for the Latin program. So we hope it continues to thrive, and if there are no comments or questions, I think we can vote.
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Olig?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes.
And then I would like to ask the board to approve item number 3, which is additional field trips that we did not approve at the beginning of the year. May I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Gretchen.
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yep.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
I'm reading it for the moment, just a moment.
I was looking for
It's
the-
in attachment 6, before the financial
Oh,
information.
okay. I missed that.
Yes.
Gretchen Olig?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yes. Yes.
All right. Anything else?
That is all.
Okay, I'd ask the board to consider finance motions 1 through 9. Have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Gretchen. I would note that items 8, which is the acceptance of a gift of $2,000 from an anonymous donor to the Westfield High School Music Department, and item number 9, accepting a gift from the Westfield Coalition for the Arts of $3,000 to the Westfield High School Music Department to fund the Avery Fisher Festival. We thank you very much for those contributions to the school. Very much appreciated. Are there any questions, Ginny?
What is the Avery Fisher Festival?
It is we did send something out. One of our bands was invited. There are very few bands across the country who are invited. Avery Fisher is one of the halls at Lincoln Center.
Yes.
Right.
So they are going to be performing at a festival there. And I'm not remembering the month, but I will make sure that we let you know the date of it.
Okay. So it's not a festival that we're hosting, it's
It is not.
an appearance
Participation.
and a participation at a festival at Avery Fisher Hall.
That's correct.
Okay, nice.
Anyone else?
Rich Matesic?
Yes.
Lucy Biegler?
Yes.
Ann Carey?
Yes.
Brendan Galligan?
Yes.
Roseanne Kirsted?
Yes.
Ginny Lights?
Yes.
Gretchen Olig?
Yes.
Mitch Slater?
Yep.
All right, legislation, man.
Rich, can I just talk about something about the budget with finance before we move on?
Sure, absolutely, sure.
Usually in January, either this meeting or the next meeting, we'd be presenting a tentative budget calendar. I haven't done that for tonight. I don't know if I will do that for the 21st. The reason being, as you know, a couple years ago, the budget was changed. This board adopted the, if you go within the cap, if you prepare a budget and approve a budget within the cap set by the Department of Education, you no longer need a public vote. So that now there's legislation that's been submitted. Whether or not it's going to pass, I don't know. That may change the timelines of the budget. What it's been, because in the past the public vote was set for mid-April or around mid-April, everything got backed up from there. So the board was always required to adopt a tentative budget the first week of March, and then a final budget at the end of March with your public hearing around that same time. With this new legislation, everything will be pushed back probably about a month. So your budget may actually go into early May at the latest, end of April, early May. So before I prepare a budget calendar for you guys to look at, I'm waiting from guidance from the state, because that, of course, will change the way we present the budget, and, maybe it would allow us to get state aid information before we actually present a budget, which, of course, does make some sense. So I'll let you know, I'll keep you updated as I get information. I know it's out there, it just hasn't gone through the legislator yet, so I'm assuming that the state will give us some guidance soon as to what the timelines of that is, so that we know how to proceed.
But is that definite to occur, or?
No.
Yeah, so.
No, it's legislation that has to be approved. So I'm hoping the state's gonna give us an idea of, they think it's gonna be approved when, and what the guidance is for districts as to whether we should proceed as though we're going to follow the old guideline. And then just to add another wrinkle to it, it was an election year. So with that may change our state aid information. Because usually the governor, even though he's not a new governor, because it's his first term again, his first year in a second term, that allows him to push back his state aid information. In 2010, we didn't get state aid information until like March 16th or 17th. So let's hope that doesn't happen this year. But so kind of stay tuned, and I'll keep you updated as I get information.
Thank you. Legislation, yeah.
So just a question on that. So even though we're waiting for the timeline, we're still moving forward with putting the budget
Oh,
together,
yes,
though.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, of
So
course.
it's just the timeline that we're
Yes, of
holding
course.
on.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. The legislation committee will be meeting, and now maybe we should look at this as well. But we were going to look at, and we will be looking at, there was a new bill introduced to make kindergarten full-time, full-day, and mandatory. So we're going to be looking at that, and maybe at this.
That'll impact budget too.
Yeah, yes.
All right, thank you. Technology Committee, Mitch?
No report, we're meeting on the 24th.
Thank you. I would ask the board to note the notes for the record. And with that, ask if there is any unfinished business. Any new business? I would then recognize the public for questions or comments on any topic. Seeing no one come to the podium, we do have a private session this evening. So I would ask the board to approve the following resolutions. Resolve that the Board of Education move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, personnel, pending or anticipated litigation, and pending or anticipated contract negotiations. And be it further resolved that any discussions held by the board which need not remain confidential, and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. Have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstained? With that, we are adjourned.